Her?
No, we're live. Do we want to see this?
Yeah.
Cool. Yes. Let me see it then. Yes. Oh man, a Hershey Stanley Cup.
$7 at Walmart.
Wow. I'm only 2.5 hours from Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's almost worth a ride.
I wonder if they'd have them there. Would they have those there?
I don't know. They must. I mean, Hershey is a great place to visit. It's a great town.
Yeah,
Have you
but
been to
how
Hershey?
cold
You've been to
is
Hershey yet, Kevin? Right? You've been to
Oh
the
yeah,
Hershey.
yeah. We took when the kids were young. We drove in and did the whole touristy thing. So
Yeah.
It's only 1,000 calories and 55 grams of fat.
Holy.
That's 1,000 too many for me. Can I voice my disapproval with last night's Oscars, especially with the
Yes. Let's start there, and then we will get right into it because I know
Yeah.
people are.
I am so with you.
because not only I haven't seen Birdman yet, so now I want to see it because it won all the awards. But of course,
awful.
it won for the one, it lost for the one award that I wanted it to win for, which was Michael Keaton for Best Actor.
Right.
The Academy Awards has a history of giving out Best Actor and Best Actress awards to people who do these, physically contorting performances, like Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot, or Colin Firth with the stuttering in King's Speech, or Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman. They give it to Eddie Redmayne, who fine performance, but I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I would have given it to Michael
I'll tell you
Keaton.
what, though. Have you seen the movie?
I haven't yet. I have to see, and maybe in retrospect, after watching both
I'm
of them.
telling you what, he deserves it. He really does. I have not seen. I mean, it was freaky, and I know I'm with you on the deformity thing and all that stuff. But his portrayal of
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking is out and out freaky.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so good, it's crazy.
Yeah, I want to watch it.
It's
I
like
was
he'll
happy.
never do another role again in the rest
Did
for the
you get
rest.
teared up during his speech too, Ack? Like when he was giving his winning speech, like there were some tears shed.
Yeah,
It was. I mean, it's an amazing movie. I mean, we're all geeky and sciencey around here, but it's a really amazing movie.
Yeah, I was happy for Julianne Moore because she's been nominated about a billion times, and she,
Seems like a good person.
but just the overall thing, and Neil Patrick Harris is the host. Get Letterman back, or bring back.
I told my wife I can't wait for the time when you watch something and you're just totally satisfied. You are like, I read the thing about the scorekeepers in life. And when I was done reading the thing about scorekeepers, I said, "That's Mike." Like, there are two kinds of people. There are scorekeepers and non-scorekeepers, and you are a scorekeeper like nobody's business.
No,
Kevin,
you were born a critic.
When I love something, I'm effusive in my praise. The problem is I never find anything that I love.
We've only been doing this for a short while, but there's never been one thing that you didn't have something negative to say about it.
It's a good yin to our yang because.
Now, one huge beef I had last night.
Right.
Some people agree with me, some people don't. The In Memoriam, no mention at all of Joan Rivers.
Yes. Yeah. No.
That bothered me. I mean, I had people arguing the fact that she wasn't in movies, but that's not true because she was.
Yeah, but not really.
Yeah, I mean,
Come on.
If you have to stretch the definition, then it's not. I mean, I know your point, but she really was not. But the argument for it is that they had other guys, they had producers and other people as well. So
I think you could definitely make the argument she made the Oscars bigger. Like she was a bigger part of the event itself. Not the movie thing, but just there should have been some special thing about honorary mention for making the. I mean, she was part of the Oscars thing, the whole red carpet thing.
I have a feeling.
I've never watched it, but I know how big it is.
I have a feeling Melissa Rivers will hate anything that anybody ever wears for the Oscars ever again, based on the fact that they did that. But I mean, there's just somewhat. Believe me, when they're cutting off the acceptance speeches of people, who've won Best Actor or Best Actress, and it's the culmination of their career, if anything, speed up the pictures to include more people for the in memoriam. I mean, I think it should.
That's fine. I mean, that's definitely. I
preferred it more too when they showed the photos of the the actors and actresses in their, one of the role they're most known for. Like, it would have been, and I thought it was artistic, but the way they did it last night. But, you would prefer to see them, on the screen, kind of.
Yeah.
And one last thing, what I have noticed in the last couple of years, and I don't know if I like this because it's like when somebody like Philip Seymour Hoffman passes away, or Heath Ledger, or Robin Williams, as it happened in the past year. I mean, they used to have the crowd and the applause for the people.
They don't let them do it.
Now they mute it because they don't want the like somebody who's a cinematographer who doesn't get any applause. For people to say, oh, he didn't get any applause, but Robin Williams got a resounding cheer. I'm sorry. I mean, not to diminish the life of the cinematographer, but Robin Williams is a big star and is somebody who a lot of people loved, and I think it's something I wanted to hear, the applause for somebody who was lost like Robin Williams. I don't know. I just think it's.
I know.
Weird.
I get the Robin Williams thing all the time, by the way. People tell me I look like Robin Williams all the time. I don't know if you guys ever said that.
So what? Halloween, you should dress up as Mork from Mork.
I know. I get it constantly. It's so funny. I mean, maybe I don't when I'm doing a hockey podcast or whatever.
I remember about the Robin Mork when I was in college and we played the drinking game and you had to say something that you had never done that you were sure that everyone else had. Of course, they had to drink that kind of thing. I had never seen Mork and Mindy. And
whoa!
I always had. Everyone else.
That's a good one.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was in college, so
there was
a couple that were with me that that hadn't seen it just because Did you watch any television in college?
No, it's true. College, I didn't. That's true. That's the time period. That's like college. Television is the last thing on your mind.
Yeah, no. So you don't do that. But there are enough people who had seen it before they got to college that it was just one of the one I had in my hip pocket when I needed that big win.
That's a good one. Yeah, I used to really. Pam Dauber was all.
I was gonna say, seeing Pam Dauber is an educational experience.
Yeah, she was. I mean, back then she was like the perfect like pure girl next door type. Yeah, she was like I'd take her over any actress today.
Yeah, and she married the perfect guy.
She did. They must have beautiful, absolutely stunning children. Think about they're just like it's crazy. All right, so let's start the show here. Because you guys don't know, these guys don't know the rumor that I put out, which is really awesome because I just posted it. I'm sure Josh does by now because I know him. But
you haven't looked.
Oh, okay, wow, okay, I'm impressed. All right, so but you guys do. So because I just posted it just before the show. So here we go. Let's start. The date is
February 23rd.
February 23rd, Monday. We are 1 week from trade deadline day. Man, oh man. All right, here we go. Smiles. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, February 23rd, 2015.
I'm Michael Lagello.
I'm Kevin Allen, USA Today Sports.
I'm Josh Rimmer.
And I am Eklund, and you're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com with 1 week to go till the trade deadline. Mike. Very nice. Always there with a good sound effect. Yeah, so things have really picked up and intensified, and man, we're now spending a lot of money on servers, which is good, which is a good thing. Thank you for coming. Continue to come to the website, but boy, oh boy, our server costs just skyrocketed in the last week or so. Taking out small loans. But anyway, we'll be good. So yeah, today last night I was working on this rumor. The reason I was up till and posted the blog last night at 1:40 in the morning, and it wasn't this, but I was working on something else, and I was up at 1:40, so I said I might as well post something else because I couldn't get this. I wanted to talk to one more person before I just threw it out there. So I heard a little Phil Kessel rumor is my title of my blog today, and I know we don't like to talk about the Maple Leafs, but
I like to talk about them.
We love to talk about the Maple Leafs, but we've been trying. I put a little thing that we shouldn't talk about them. But I think between now and next Monday, we're going to talk a lot about them. So we just should. And then after that, though, we are not talking about the Maple Leafs. We're going to talk about the playoff runs. We're going to talk about all that stuff. That's going to be fun. But anyway, all right. So Phil Kessel's not skating today. Everybody might know that. He took a day off of practice. He's apparently recovering from a small groin pull. As Butcher Cross said one time, raise your hand if your groin's not pulled. I love that joke. Anyway, so he's taking a day off today, And but it hasn't stopped the rumors, of course. So here's what I heard. All right, I have been going back and forth on this: the draft versus not the draft. Are they going to wait? And then I keep talking to people that I trust. And it's hard to get things out of Toronto right now because they are really tight-lipped, and they're on a tight ship. But I keep believing, my gut keeps telling me that they're going to do this at the deadline, and it's like there are very few teams who can do it. There are very, so I know logically it's not the greatest, but I just think this is a situation. It feels like a situation that they need resolved yesterday, and they want to just move on. Once you've decided, it's kind of like I guess on a trip with your girlfriend and being stuck in a hotel after you've broken up with her for a week or something like that. They want to get out of this right now, and they want to start their next. But of course, they're not going to. Kessel's a huge asset. They're not going to sit there and push him out for nothing. Mm-hmm. There aren't many teams who can do it. Obviously, we've talked about that too. I mean, it's a lot of money to take on, and it's a really tricky thing. And teams that have cap space really don't have the money, or to throw into one player. So enter the Florida Panthers. And we heard rumors last week the Florida Panthers were a possible team. And we also heard Dale Talon come out and say that he's not dealing any of his youth or assets. He's going to be, he's going to stay the course. And all right, so all that's my set. So here's the deal that I heard. Okay. And it goes against that, of course. So for what it's worth. Okay, the Leafs will send Kessel and Robidas or possibly Polak, or a prospect D-man. So the Kessel's the main part. The defensive part is another little thing. Two different people. One person said Robidas. One person said Polak or a prospect D-man. They don't want to take too much salary back, but they might want to grab a defenseman for the run. All right. In return, the Maple Leafs will send them Huberdeau, their first-round draft pick in this coming draft, and Bergenheim. Okay. Bergenheim, then the Leafs will turn around and trade somewhere else. But they need the Bergenheim's money thing that the Panthers will have to get off the books. And there's also a possibility of another draft pick or somewhere in there that would go back to Florida. But it wouldn't be a first. It would maybe be second or third, and it wouldn't be this year. Maybe next year. That's what I was told. So this is an interesting trade on a lot of levels in my mind. And the more I thought about it, it was one of those things. You don't want to just roll out. I heard tons of Kessel rumors, but this was the first one, in my sense at least, that made some sense. That actually there was some logic to it. That what Toronto was getting enough, and Florida was getting enough, and Florida was getting what they really needed. And also, if Florida gets Kessel now, you're talking about a potential help for pushing towards the playoffs, right? For this year, which is a lot of money. You can almost pay for Kessel's salary if you can make the playoffs this year, right? So that helps. That helps a lot. All right, so. Unless you have to get that phone, Kevin, I will go to you first.
I do have to get that phone.
Okay, well, I will put you on mute then.
The Florida Panthers.
Yeah, it's Panthers, all Dale Talon, all pissed off at me, right? All right, so he's gonna Mike, I'm going to start with you. You're just hearing this for the first time. Mm-hmm. If I told you this trade is an E5 and actually happened, give me your reaction.
Well, Dale Talon going against what he said last week, including a guy like Huberdeau, who's a top 5 pick, who's I think 22 years old, 21 or 22.
RFA coming up. He's just out of his rookie contract.
Right, but it'll be a bridge deal probably. I know he was rookie of the year, but
So what do you think he's going to get? $3-4 million, somewhere in there?
Yeah, probably $3.5 million, something in that range. That's I mean that's realistic on a say a 2-year deal.
Yep. Oh, and also there's another possibility too. Sorry about this. There's also a possibility of someone just texted me this back. I forgot to I wrote this too. Vincent Trocek going to the Leafs. He's an American kid from Pittsburgh. He's not exactly he sounds like a Russian, but he's not. Vincent Trocek's an American kid from Pittsburgh. He's a good center. He's an okay center. It's another.
Yeah, I mean that's a sort of a B prospect. I mean he's played for the Panthers this year. I don't know what his stats are right now, but I think
about 40 games for the Panthers. Has about 15 points. He's he's
more
of a playmaking center than anything else.
Right, he's a young kid. I don't think he's particularly big, and with them having Bukestad and Boland and they're not in deep trouble up the middle at all, so they probably could afford to trade a guy like Trocek. But the heart of the deal here would be the first-round pick, which, if Florida is not a playoff team, that's a top 15 pick.
Right.
Huberdeau, a 21-year-old kid. I mean, to me, it makes sense in a way, but it goes against everything that Talon said. And I know we've talked about, going down the road of, general managers.
Yeah, you have to think. I mean, this is the press conference, okay? I asked Dale Talon, like, Dale, you said last week, and Dale would say, well, Phil Kessel wasn't available to us last week, and Phil Kessel is a game changer, and he's a young player as well, and he's not an old player, and he's the guy who can come in and score 30 or 40 goals for our team that has been good defensively but has a tough time scoring. So this is an easy out for Talon on that. It's not
right, but this is the construct of this deal is essentially the type of return that the Leafs are going to want for Kessel. Young player, Huberdeau, prospect, Trocheck, first-round pick. I don't think, and I hope this happens for Leaf fans because I think they're ready to move on from Kessel as well as probably Kessel's ready to move on from the Leafs. But I see this package coming more likely in the summer than now. I mean, Florida is one of the few teams, as you said, who can take on his salary, and with Bergenheim being included, just like the deal with Nashville where
Right.
Jokinen was included, and they're going to flip Jokinen someplace else for a low pick.
Right.
They're going to probably flip Bergenheim if they got Bergenheim in the deal for a low pick.
Think about this. Bergenheim's gone, Huberdeau is gone, so that's, like we said, it's going to be $4 million. This is starting to add up to Kessel's salary. It's not that far off. It's not, it's not there, but also the first-round draft pick that they're not going to have to pay that the Leafs are going to get. There's definitely aspects to this that money-wise makes sense.
And Florida has a lot of room and a lot of flexibility, but you have to also remember that Aaron Ekblad is probably going to hit a lot of his performance bonuses this year, and probably win Rookie of the Year. So his $925,000 salary is probably going to go up to around $2 or $3 million. So there's a couple $1 million that nobody else calculated. I mean, do I think it's plausible? Sure. Do I think it's going to happen? I mean, I'm a skeptic, so I'll say no. I think if the Leafs can get this kind of return in the summer, I think many Toronto fans will be happy because I think you get a young player in Huberdeau, who can be part of the new young core, and maybe he needs a change of scenery after because after his rookie year he's had a couple years that have been a little questionable.
Yeah. Now, Josh, tell me what your thoughts are. If I told you this was the trade.
I don't know. I spoke with Dale Talon a couple days ago, and he even told me that he has no interest in Kessel. Maybe maybe he is fooling everybody, and maybe he does want him. I think Jonathan Huberdeau in the right situation, I think could be a pretty damn good player. Is he a 70, 80 point forward? I don't think so. I think he's more a 60, 65. I mean, you know what? I think last year, or even the year before, if they would have dealt Kessel, they would have gotten more value for him. I think the first-round pick for the Florida Panthers. I mean, they keep going up in the standings. So, I mean, it's not really. I don't think it's going to be much of a top 10 pick as it was earlier. I still don't think they're getting enough for Kessel, to be honest with you.
You get more? Yeah, I mean it's a hard call. I think I've thought about it. I've racked my brain about it last night, this morning too. Like just thinking about can they get more for Kessel and what teams can do this.
I don't think they can get more for him. That's the problem. With everything that's happened this year, I think his value has gone down, and every team knows that Toronto's trying to trade him.
No.
So they're not going to give him the best possible deal for him with everything that's happened here in Toronto. I think that's the major concern with the Maple Leafs, and this happens all the time. They wait too long to deal these guys when they could have gotten a huge return.
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with Kessel. It's the Toronto situation. See, this is what opposing general managers want Toronto and want people to think. They want there's something wrong. Kessel has scored 30 goals 6 times. He's 27 years old. There's nothing wrong with him. Yes, I mean, is he the most motivated guy in the world? No. Is he in the best shape of his career? No. he still scores goals. He's a goal-scoring machine. So
Yeah.
I don't buy into this premise that they're going to have a tough time moving Kessel. They're going to have to eat salary. Well, the only thing I'm concerned about, I just looked up Huberdeau's stats after his rookie of the year win when he had 31 points in 48 games. He scored 9 goals in almost 70 games last year, and I'm not ripping on him.
He was terrible last year, no question.
He's terrible last year, and he's only got 9 goals this year. So clearly something is not working with him in Florida. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but the key here, and this is the key for the Leafs going forward. They want to get a really good return for Kessel, but they want players who will be part of the future, meaning guys who are 20, 21 years old, first-round picks. This team, part of the rebuild is them wanting to be bad the next 2 to 3 years.
Right.
And if you get returns that are comparable for Kessel, that are ready to win, ready to play, and ready to contribute as much as Kessel can right now, that defeats the purpose, because a guy that you get in return for Kessel, if he scores 30 goals, is going to keep the Leafs from falling down to the bottom of the standings and getting premium draft picks. So they want futures for Phil Kessel, not presents.
And Huberdeau, to me, when I had talked to somebody about Huberdeau's stats too, they said a couple things. This was a person in Florida, and they admitted that Huberdeau has been, had the horrible year last year, and they said this year he's been a lot better and has been, even though the goals aren't there necessarily, he's also a real character guy, a real leader, a real great locker room guy. It would be a tough trade for them to make because of that reason. That's why Florida doesn't really want to deal Huberdeau. He's a good fit for them. He's a good fit for Gallant. And when I hear that, I think that okay, that's a good fit for Toronto. I mean, that's what Toronto needs. That's what Toronto really wants out of this. You're moving Kessel out. You're moving out a player who is not, happy, not working well in that situation, not leading at all. And
but of their core group. Of their core group, they don't want to move Barkov. They don't want to move Ekblad. They don't want to move Bukestad.
Yeah.
Of the core group, I think Huberdeau is the most expendable, and the one that the Leafs can say, okay, at least we're getting a scoring forward, scoring forward who's played 3 years in the NHL already, who could replace.
Not going to be super expensive for them to re-sign.
Right.
I mean, he's going to be expensive. He's not going to be crazy cheap, but he's going to be not going to be super expensive.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's plausible. Again, do I think it's likely before the deadline? I mean, everything would have to fall into place. In a way, I almost think that Florida would be giving up. It depends on what they think they can get back for Bergenheim. If they think they can get something significant in return for Bergenheim, then I don't know why they would throw them in the deal. They could just deal him separately. But
over the weekend, that brings up another point here. Over the weekend, I talked to a lot of people about Bergenheim because there was a lot of talk that Bergenheim was going to get dealt, and there is definitely a mixed bag on Bergenheim, and they are definitely not getting what they want for him. I think they're trying to drive the price up to a degree. I think they're trying, and I think Talon's doing a good job for the most part. And I even wrote this, doing a good job at getting what he can out of this. But I don't think, I think Bergenheim will draw back something, but it's not. I think Florida would rather it be included in this deal because they're going to have to include it in this deal. They're going to have to either move Bergenheim before this deal or put Bergenheim in this deal to make this deal, because they can't take that money on without it. So
the other component in the deal that you mentioned is, I mean, Robidas is 37. He's got 2 more years at $3 million per season. I don't think he's a bad defenseman. I still think he can play, but that's on top of taking Willie Mitchell. You have another aging defenseman. Let's get Kevin's thought on this when he comes back.
Now that Dale Talon I'm just kidding. Kevin was not on the phone with Dale Talon. It was a joke.
No, actually, I was.
You were not.
I was.
You're kidding me.
No.
All right.
I was doing a story with on the Florida Panthers today, and I've been waiting for him to call, not knowing, of course, you were writing a rumor about Phil Kessel. But anyway, no, I was doing a story with Dale unrelated to your rumor.
Okay.
We were just talking about the, trying to find the balance of maintaining a good young team and letting it develop and being patient with it, and now trying to also make the playoffs. So it's
And then Eck is throwing that all out the window with this Kessel room.
All right, so I've got a knife over here. Am I going to put this through my head now, Kevin, or what?
no. I mean, yeah. He's not going to. He didn't spill any trade secrets, but I can tell you that it's not likely that he's going to acquire, Phil Kessel. I mean, basically what he said to me on the record was that they're going to stay the course. That this is a good young team. They love the younger players. They now have a center ice with Bukestad and Barkov and Trocheck, and their next thing to do is to get some scoring wingers. Now, Phil Kessel would fit into that, but he did not sound like a guy that felt he was close enough to where he needed to make a major trade like this, because it would take assets. He's not going to trade his first round pick. I can tell you that.
Right.
So, they're very pleased. Like, they love their defense a lot. Mitchell will be back soon. He's day to day. And they like their goaltending a lot, and they just need to find some way to score some goals. And he expects he's looking around and making some trade. They have some obviously potential unrestricted free agents, and they expect to perhaps move one or more than that, or more of those guys, and maybe make a hockey trade to help now. So
yeah,
but I don't see them making a major trade.
Yeah, interesting.
I said, Kevin, I said to Ack that the proposed package that in this rumor is probably what Toronto is looking for. A NHL roster player, young NHL roster player, a prospect, and a number one pick. I don't know whether they're going to get that number one pick now, or for the 2015 draft, or maybe for the 2016 draft. And another factor in a Kessel deal for Toronto, after July 1, Toronto pays him a $4 million bonus on his deal. I will bet you anything that any team interested in Phil Kessel is going to wait until after July 1 to let MLS and E pay the $4 million bonus and not have to pay it for themselves. So that, to me, that lends it to the possibility, or lends it to the direction of a deal in the summer. And I think they can get that kind of package if they get a bidding war going through a number of teams in the summer.
Well, even prior to talking to Dale Talon about the Florida Panthers, what I was going to say about that rumor is I don't see any team moving a potential lottery pick.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the risk of that is too great. We saw what happened to in the original Kessel trade. When you saw who those players become, and if something should happen where you acquired a draft pick and that turned out to be McDavid or Eichel,
that's a Brian Burke special.
Yeah, so that's why I think what I was going to say prior to running off and taking the call was that I just didn't see under any circumstances the Florida Panthers moving a draft pick that potentially could be a lottery pick, because they don't know whether they're going to make the playoffs. And if you had to bet, I think you'd think the Bruins are going to survive just because they're the Bruins.
Well,
you would think that, especially
and the Flyers. I mean, you're the first one, Ack, to tell us that the Flyers could come hard on the rail, and I'm always skeptical of digging out of a hole. I just think they're going to run out of time, but they've hung in there, and it's helped that the Bruins, I know they had a big win yesterday, but, they have not been the Bruins as we've known them in the past. So they really opened up the gate for, either the Panthers or a team like the Flyers coming hard as well.
And there were indications last night that Krejci has had a knee injury, and if that is serious, I mean, that really puts them behind the eight ball. I mean, I haven't heard any update on how serious an injury, how long he'll be out, or if it's just a flare-up. But if it's something significant and he misses, 10, 15 games of the rest of the regular season, I mean, I think that opens the door for Florida and for Philadelphia, who've been pretty hot after the All-Star break.
It does, and the Flyers picking up Kimmo Timonen. Looks like he's going to play a week from. He's going to play against the Rangers on Saturday. So not playing Tuesday or Thursday. That is like picking up a really good trade deadline player. I mean that really is going to help them a lot. And from people who practiced with Timonen this week, they've said to me that he's just looks amazing. That I mean, you remember Timonen looked a little bit slower last year, but he's coming off that. He played in the Olympics. He played a lot of hockey. He was really beaten up. And a guy that's in his kind of shape that's taken off this much time, really could be inspiring. It could be a very interesting thing to see. And I honestly think that the 2 wins this weekend by the Flyers are keeping Kimmo in Philly. I think before that it was iffy, and I think now there's a good chance he stays. Of course, the Flyers have 2 easy games this week. 2 quote unquote easier games. Carolina and Toronto on Tuesday and Thursday. They can't leave points on the table in those games. They can't play up to their competition like they did this weekend and then play down. But if they play up and win those 2 games, it gets fascinating for the Flyers. I think it really becomes.
Leaf fans are becoming Flyer fans on Thursday.
Oh, speaking of important games, like the Western Conference has just become so fun. Like you wake up this morning, Minnesota is in a playoff spot. I think they're only a couple points now behind Winnipeg, and the Kings have 7 in a row. Colorado just refuses to die. Everybody's there. I mean, that's just a great race in the Western Conference, and made more fascinating by the fact that the mixture of the wild card and the division race. Because teams are falling out of the.
I know.
It's just fun, and in the East we don't quite have that. The Flyers are trying to give us that, but the West it's just a fun. And the other thing I wanted to bring up too, because I think this is fun as well. A month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, it sure looked like Pekka Rinne was a flat-out favorite, prohibitive favorite to win the Vezina Trophy, even though Carey Price was playing well. But right now I would call that an absolute dead heat. I would say this could end up being one of the closest Vezina Trophy races that since probably about 2007-8 when Marty Brodeur and Nabokov, I think they were separated by only 5 or 6 points, and I think that it was 15-13 in terms of first place votes. Like right now, the difference in save percentage between those 2 goalies is like 235 for Carey Price and 935 for Carey Price and 931 for Pekka Rinne, and it's like 201 versus 191 goals against average. And what's really, really transformed this into the dead heat is in the past 10 games, Carey Price has only given up 11 goals in 10 games.
I know.
I mean, he's just really turned it on. And now, I mean, it's just too close to call. We need exit polling here to figure this out. I mean, this is going to be a fun race, and I don't envy the GMs that have to try to decide. I mean, like if we had to decide today, who's really been the better goalie? I mean, they both have been great. Their teams are leading their conferences.
I think it's almost impossible to tell right now.
Yeah, it's just great. I mean, Pekka Rinne has a slightly better record, and Carey Price has slightly better statistics.
Right.
So.
No, that's where it is. I agree.
Ironically, the race in the West for the last few playoff spots, and Montreal's positioning in the East may be determined by how teams react to injuries. I know that last night Ryan Miller got hurt.
That's
and it looks to be a serious injury. But as I usually say, well, if that guy gets injured, the team is going to make a trade. But in the instance of Vancouver, they have Markstrom in the AHL who's had a really good year. They have Eddie Lack who's played some important games for them. So I don't think that Vancouver is going to make a trade if Miller is out for a significant period. But Montreal, Gonchar is still out, or Gonchar is still having some problems. They lost Emelin for 6 weeks with an injury. They're playing a lot of kids like Greg Patterin and Nathan Beaulieu and Jared Tenorti on the blue line, and they're not scoring a lot. I mean, Price is winning lots of games for them. He's playing that well, but there was a sizable contingent in Toronto of Montreal hierarchy last week, and it was just reported last night that that Joffrey Lupul is being looked at as a possible trade before the deadline, and the name of Montreal has been mentioned because they need goal scoring. So I think Mark Bergevin is going to be very busy in the next 7 days.
Yeah, it's interesting about that, Mike. I wrote my AM preview, the mini column, as I like to call it, yesterday about Montreal, and some of the Montreal fans took issue with it a little bit because, like they have had a tremendous season. Like they have been, it's so consistently good, but they don't. We don't talk a lot about them. We don't see them in the same way that we still view, even the Kings, who aren't even, a sure lock to make the playoffs, or the Chicago Blackhawks, or the Blues, or the Rangers. And I basically theorize is the reason that we don't is just because their offense is so poor. Like defense and goaltending, we know win championships. That's just a given. However, you still got to score some goals, and they're like 24th in the league in goal scoring and goals per game. They're not a good particularly a power play team as well. They don't really have. I mean, Pacioretty is a tremendous player, and I've always felt that Plekanec is a pro's pro, and Galchenyuk obviously is a player that's on the rise. But they don't really have a Malkin, a Crosby, an Ovechkin, one of those type players. And I really think, and this is what I wrote, that some of the fans took issue with. I really think that I get that he needs to go out. He's concerned about Gonchar, and defense is their bread and butter. He's looking for another defense, but I understand that. That's who the Canadians are right now, and you can't lose that. However, I agree with what Mike just said. Like, I think if we're going to take this team seriously, they have to go out and try to fix their offense a little bit, or to make some move. At least to sort of even send a message and saying, look, we know, is Carey Price really going to be able to hold teams to 11 goals in 10 games, continuously? I don't think so.
And top lines usually get shut down in the playoffs, or at least limited in terms of their offensive opportunities. And unlike last year, they don't have Rene Bourque, they don't have Danny Briere, who provided secondary offense for them and Dale Weiss. They do have Dale Weiss, but can you depend on Dale Weiss to score key goals like he did last year? That's why I'm saying I think Bergevin has to go out and at least get one and maybe two forwards before the deadline. He's got the cap room, and he's got their organization is fairly deep in prospects, and he has all of his draft picks. I think it's incumbent upon him, if he thinks that this team has a chance to go deep in the Eastern Conference playoff race, which I think they do, to go out and get himself one or two forwards and maybe a defenseman at the deadline to bolster them.
I keep hearing, Vermette involved with them, and that makes a lot of sense. And I also heard, with Krejci's injury, Boston, becoming very possibly higher on Vermette as well. We don't know the complete extent of Krejci's injury yet. I don't believe it's been talked about as it, but it's not looking good. It's looking pretty bad for the rest of the year at least. Maybe back to playoffs time, is what I was told, but it's not looking great. So, but Vermette would make tons of sense in Montreal. He would bring a lot to them. The fact he can do all the different things he can do. It would be, the fact his name Antoine, things like that.
I'm with you 100% on that. And the thing about Montreal is, and you hit the nail on the head, Eck, when you said that, they have prospects coming. Like, they can afford to give up their first-round pick. In fact, I would, if I was Bergevin, I would be saying to myself, hey, look, we're real close. We're playing the kind of hockey that you play when you win championships. Mm-hmm. We can stop the other team from scoring, and we've been consistent all season. They really have been consistent. They haven't had the ups and downs that some teams have had, and they're playing a playoff style, and they've got guys like Pacioretty. We just need a little more help and a little more confidence. And Vermette is the kind of guy that he's versatile. He can play anywhere. He can win a big face-off. I understand GM saying, giving a first-round pickup for a rental is really bothersome. It would be bothersome to me, but you could work out a deal. Maybe there's a couple players on the Phoenix,
yeah, right,
or on the Arizona roster that you would want. So I agree. I think Bergevin will do something big. He's been a aggressive, well thought out to GM since he got that job. And it shouldn't be surprising because all those of us who covered him as a player, he was always just a great interview.
Yeah.
Really he was funny, is all I get out too.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I expect them to do something here as well before next Monday.
There's something I wanted to read, guys, because this was posted just the end of the Friday show, and I was so mad because it would have been a great thing. And then we're going to get back to rumors. But did you guys see the Phil Bork rant? I posted it out on my Twitter. The Phil Bork rant, where he goes off on the Penguins, and he actually nails the Penguins situation better than any of us have. And here's a guy who works for the Penguins, right? So it's rare that you see a guy, go after a team, but he does it in such a respectful way that the Penguins. It's actually on their website. There was a video on their website for a while. I couldn't find it. I don't know if it was taken down or not, but. I found the transcript of it, and this is really good. All right, so I'm going to read it to you real quickly. Usually by the time I get down here from the broadcast booth, and this, I'm going to understand, this was written after the Columbus Blue Jackets game, so this is, a little bit further back. The Penguins had a good, they had a good win yesterday, although they faced a Panthers team that apparently arrived at like 4 in the morning or something like that, right? But they did get a win, but so this is before that. Usually by the time I get down from the broadcast booth, I've kind of gathered my thoughts, gathered my emotions. Not so much tonight. I think as a Penguins fan, I think you should be ticked off tonight because your goaltender laid it all on the line. That's one of the best goaltending performances I've seen in years. He was taking my breath away. To lose the game like that, it should bother you. It should bother you a lot as a player. I don't know if anything was said in that room, but it bothers me. I take a lot of pride in working for this organization and what this organization stands for. And what I witnessed out there tonight, it was not Penguins hockey. You had a goaltender that absolutely laid everything out, every ounce of energy he had on the line, and you lose the game like that on a shorthanded goal where he makes the save and you just don't cover up Brandon Dubinsky. It should really stick in your craw to the point where things should change after the game tonight. He goes on. Because I think enough is enough. Enough has gone on here, and everybody kind of being patient. Okay, we're going to be fine. He says, I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to be fine. We've got Malcolm, we've got Crosby, we have Letang. It should get to the point of unacceptable. We're going on the ice. It's not about working hard. Don't get me wrong. You did some things against Washington, but the way you unraveled it after the Ovechkin two-handed chop on Letang, which you talked about last week, you end up shooting yourself in the foot, and you come back and you don't have a great start here against a team that's clearly out of the playoffs. It's frightening. In their room, they're thinking we're going down with the ship. We're going down swinging. We're going down, and we're going to empty the tank every night. They beat the Philadelphia Flyers. They come rolling in here, and they snatch 2 points from the Pittsburgh Penguins. I just don't know what the comments are from the players, but you should feel like this is rock bottom just because of the way Marc-Andre Fleury played. Sid's trying to fire himself up. He's trying to fire the troops up by fighting Brandon Dubinsky, but I don't know. In my estimation, I see too much talent and too much character on the ice in the room for this to go on any longer than tonight. GM Jim Rutherford is a great guy that's more likely to pull the trigger in the next few days than wait till March 2nd. On top of that, if you don't have the fear of being traded, you might want to start having the fear of not making the playoffs. You might think all's nice and cozy where you are right now, but guess what? All of a sudden, when you pick up the paper tomorrow, you go online, you look at PittsburghPenguins.com, the Penguins are going to be in the wild card position. They're number 7 right now, and guess what? The Boston Bruins aren't that far behind, and the Florida Panthers aren't that far behind. So it goes on. Now it's really long, and I'm trying to, but there's so many good things. Here's the end. I'm just going here. But not with the talent and what ownership has done to build this team to win now. And that's the. Let me go back. Sorry. This is really good. I'm sorry about this. I'm delaying here. Oh, here we go. Okay. The Florida Panthers are not that far behind. Continue to slide like this. I don't think you want to go into the last 15 games of the regular season. Holy moly, we are 2 points from being out of a wild card position. And the way things are going right now, the reality should be starting to hit you in the face right about now. Not with the talent of what ownership has done to build a team to win now. And that's the thing. I know there's a little bit of sense where everyone is looking at the Metropolitan Division. Now we're 4 games below 500 in the Metropolitan Division. And the teams we beat are the teams that aren't in the playoffs for the most part. You're not beating the Rangers. You're not beating the Caps. You're not even beating the Flyers for that matter. There's a kind of this don't worry, we'll be fine. Don't look at the stats. Don't look at the numbers so much. That's kind of what you're hearing. You know what? At this point, you better look at the numbers because it's a reality. It's a small sample size. It's not a small sample size anymore. It's a reality that's right now. This team is not good enough, and there should be some real healthy fear of what's going on. Pretty interesting.
And coincidentally, over the weekend, the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review reported that the Penguins are interested in bringing Jordan Staal back. Now, that was shot down by Ron Francis this morning, but I mean, was that sort of like a rumor across the bow to shake things up, or is this the dog days of the NHL season, and they're just, or is this team flawed? I don't think they're flawed.
When Phil Bourque goes to this level, there's a flaw here. He's seeing something, and Phil Bourque, what I felt more than anything about this, and despite him making so many great points on this team that we've been discussing sort of around the bush, but here's a guy who's right there with the team who's seeing it, firsthand, is that the Panthers don't have a Phil Bourque in their locker room, and I think that's why he made this statement. I really feel like they don't have a guy who's looking at it this way, because when an ex-player talks like this to me, it's like he's dying to be in that locker room and say this to the players. That's what it feels like to me, Kevin.
Well, I think you meant the Penguins don't have anyone like Phil Bourque. Is that what
I'm sorry. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Penguins.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm a huge Phil Bourque guy. I've known him for a lot of years. He was a tremendous role player, and he was a very heart and soul inspirational player. And I think your assessment of what he was feeling is right on the money. I mean, he's just frustrated. He is part of the organization, and he sees, what the problems are. They're kind of in this malaise, period where they're not really performing at a high level, and he sees it, and he knows something needs to be done, and he doesn't see anybody doing it. So, I think he feels, comfortable in his job security that he can say that. I think he also said it in a very professional way.
He did.
So, he didn't single out anybody. He said this is a team issue. And, he just basically said what probably a lot of guys are thinking. And, it was probably a good thing. And the fact they put it on their website says that, they were okay with it. And, again, I mean, he didn't say anything that was unprofessional. It was all, pretty.
He said it in the right way, and he did say, because there is that definite feeling like we're going to be okay, we're going to be fine. We got these guys, and it's just when you watch them play though, you don't get that sense at all. They crumble very easily. They don't follow through. They play up to their competition and down to their competition all the time. It's what we saw yesterday with Boston against Chicago. We saw last week with Pittsburgh against Chicago, and and then part of that is Chicago is just slumping right now. But it's just a small thing, That's Chicago, and no one's thinking about that. That's going to be a problem.
It is interesting. Don't you feel that Chicago's issue is not dissimilar from the Penguins' issues? And that is, they have been, in Chicago's case, they've won, a couple of cups. They've won, 58 playoff games and, 5 or 6 seasons. And it's hard for them to get excited about the regular season. And, there's always the danger of, and we talk about this all the time, can you turn the switch on for the postseason? Well, the Penguins, they strike me as going through that right now as well. I mean, it's almost like they want the playoffs to start, right, and saying, okay, when it starts, we can, turn it on and, be the real Penguins team. But here's the danger in Pittsburgh, is they've adjusted to this new puck possession style, but they really have never had their entire team because they've been hurt all season. They've had a lot of injuries, and so we don't even know what the real team, is yet.
No, that's the truth. And
we won't know because Mata's not, going to be back, and he's a crucial, part of this. But if you look at, Malkin's been out, Crosby was out. They had. Several guys who are, crucial players. Como was out for an extended period. I mean, they've had a lot of different guys, gone, and they've sort of been trying to piece this all together. But right now, I think Bourque's assessment is what fans see as well.
Yeah, it really I thought it was nailed it, and it's very rare that you hear. I mean, and so I wanted to throw one rumor off of you real quick. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's any interest in Jake Gardiner in Detroit? Because somebody told me about this last night. I just was curious whether you thought that was possible.
I don't think so. I think they need a guy that can play really strong defensively.
That's not Gardiner.
Yeah, that is not Gardiner. I wouldn't see that. I feel confident of my information that they're looking to see. If there's a veteran defenseman whose price dips because no one wants to, overpay. Like I could see them moving. Like if Mihalik doesn't move and suddenly he's not, they're not looking for a top flight prospect. I could see the Red Wings moving on that. I could see him the same thing with Petrie, and I don't think that's going to happen with Petrie. Petrie has played pretty well, and I think his price actually has gone up as opposed to down. And so, I still believe the Red Wings may do something, but I don't see them giving away a first-round pick or any of their prize prospects.
How about Robidas?
For the Red Wings?
Yeah.
I think he'd be a better fit for them.
Yeah.
And he's a right-hand shot.
The only problem with Robidas, and this is why, I would be reluctant to say that that's even likely, and that he has 2 years left on a deal, and he's 37 years old.
Yeah.
So to me, they would be better off getting in line for Polak, like the teams are, because that's a good deal. 1 year left at $3 million, and we've talked before. I mean that the starting point for every defenseman seems to be $2.5 million. So
right,
just slightly above what you're paying defensemen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what the Flyers just signed Nick Schultz for, 2 years, $2.5 million, which I thought was a fantastic deal.
Everybody gets that. Like if you were a defenseman and you got signed, you get $2.5 million.
Right. If you're in the top six. All right, Josh, what do you got for us today?
Let's start in Buffalo, guys. First of all, or not first of all, but in Buffalo, it appears that there's been a player that's been missing, showing up late to meetings. No, it's not Evander Kane.
Right.
It's Evander Kane. He's on the shelf, as we all know. He's out for a while. It's actually Nikita Zheredov, who was held out of Sunday's shootout loss to Nashville. Second time he's been parked due to disciplinary reasons. Those disciplinary reasons, like I mentioned, are late to meetings. Murray said the issue is not always is that he is not always punctual. And Zadorov actually commented on the whole thing, saying it was late for a meeting, 100% unacceptable, apologized to the team, don't want to lose the trust of the team. Now, that's the second time he's actually been disciplined now, I guess, in the last month. So let's keep an eye on what goes on there with Zadorov. Moving on, the other component of that deal, the Winnipeg Jets, some news out of there is Dustin Byfuglien is going to remain a forward now. So he was switched to forward, I believe, last game, and now Paul Maurice says that he will remain now as a forward.
Oh,
so again, the shuffling with Dustin Byfuglien back from forward to D keeps on happening.
I will bet anything that is essentially to take the heat off Kevin Cheveldayoff in terms of trying to get a forward, because they've been saying, well, they want a forward, they want two forwards, they supposedly are interested in Daniel Winnick. If they have Byfuglien playing up front, then they can plausibly say, okay, well, we're okay up front. I think Byfuglien has a bigger effect on that team when he's playing on the blue line. He played up front against Toronto on Saturday, and not that he wasn't noticeable, but he was less noticeable than the last time they played Toronto. So I think they're eventually going to move him back if they can get themselves a forward at the deadline.
At what point do you worry about pissing him off to the point where he won't resign in Winnipeg? Like, there's some
that I feel the same way, Eck. I really do, and I think we've talked about this before, but he makes such an impact in the game as as someone who is in the middle of the action all the time, and when he's coming from the blue line, he finds the open ice better than when he's forward, and
he wants to play. He doesn't want to play forward.
Yeah, he wants to play defense. I agree with that. Now, what we don't know is maybe he loves Winnipeg. I just don't know. I've never talked to him about that.
I've talked to people about it. I talked to Pete Tessier about it, who was here, and he says his wife likes it there. But I
know his teammates love Big Buff. So
yeah, I know, and I think he's a hugely important player. But his next year is his last year on his contract. I mean, he's going to be a $9 million or $8 million defenseman after that. You're going to have to, I think he would. Maybe that's high, but I think he's going to be up there. In 16, 17, I think $8 million is reasonable for Byfuglien if he goes on the open market.
I do too. What's troublesome for me though is I have great trust in Paul Maurice as a coach, and
right,
it makes you wonder. If Paul thinks he should be up front. That's a tough situation. If the coach just feels strongly that he can better help the team, and but Buffalo wants to play defense, it's those issues are that's why coaches get paid the money they do, because those are never easy fixes.
No, this is a problem. Josh, go ahead.
As the show started today, guys, it was announced the Ottawa Senators defenseman Jared Cowan had been suspended for 3 games without pay for interference against Florida Panther forward Jussi Jokinen during NHL game number 877 in Ottawa on Saturday. I'm only reading the release here, guys, so number 877, just so you can jot that down.
Someday.
The player safety announced that today. So,
if anyone has a good English accent out there, I really do want to get an English accent guy to read the player safety rulings. I'm really looking for that.
Like a British accent?
Yeah, like a British accent. It could give it like a Masterpiece Theater aspect to this whole thing that we could.
Did you watch the last night at the Oscars? They had I forgot his name. He was in
Selma.
What was his name?
I can't pronounce it.
He's a British actor. They remember Doogie Howser had him. I can't believe you just called him Doogie Howser.
It'd be fantastic, Doogie Howser. Yeah, Doogie Howser hosting. For sure.
Read it in a British accent. It was pretty funny.
Have Lady Mary from Downton Abbey read it. I can watch
there we
her
go.
too.
That's the guy. That's the guy we need. You're right. Not Lady Mary, but we need the butler.
Oh yeah, Carson.
The head butler. Yes, him reading this. That's exactly what we need for this.
Actually, we get Felicity to read it. Felicity, whatever her last name was, that was in the Stephen Hawking movie.
Felicity Jones.
Yeah. Nope. We have Felicity Jones read it.
No. Continue.
Yeah, anyway, moving on. Let's go to injury news. In Vancouver, goalie Ryan Miller injured yesterday on Long Island, on his way back to Vancouver for an MRI. According to ESPN's Pierre LeBrun, Miller's agent, Mike Laute, apparently thinks his client could be out for a few weeks based on how he left the ice. The Canucks are expected to recall Jacob Markstrom for the AHL, Utica to serve as Eddie Lack's backup. Miller was limping badly after yesterday's game, per the province. Now, the newspaper also notes Markstrom can play 10 games or stay with the club for 30 days, whichever comes first, without having to clear waivers.
Feels like a Price is Right game. Feels like something out of like Price is Right type game when you say it like that. It's like, all right, you can either have what's behind this door.
Well, think about it, Ekto. Markstrom's been playing amazing in the A. I think he's got like a 937 save percentage. If he stays up too long, they could very well lose him in Vancouver.
Yeah, I know, and yet you couldn't give him away earlier. He was his thing. Stock had fallen so far. So yeah. Anyway, continue.
But if he stays up long, that means Miller's out for the if Miller's out for the year, then Markstrom is going to stay up for the rest of the year anyway. So they're not going to. No.
I'm Brizgalov. He's available now.
I heard he got picked up by Phoenix, he's going to thrive there in Phoenix. The Flyers are going to sign him next year and then sign him to a long-term deal and buy him out. That's what I hear. That's Brizgalov's. Anaheim putting Brizgalov on waivers was too Groundhog Day for me. All right. Anything else, Josh?
Yes, Boston David Krejci still needs to be reevaluated after he was hurt on Friday, but there is some concern that he sustained a long-term injury, and that will make him unavailable for a good chunk of what's left for the 2014-15 campaign. That's per Sportsnet's Nick Kyprios. The report also stated the problem is with his knee. For his part, Bruins coach Claude Julien has stated that Krejci's injury is totally different from the Bruins forward previous injury, but has otherwise not gone into a lot of detail yet about the nature of the issue. We already know Boston's been trying to make some moves, so
yeah. No, the similarity is it's both the injuries help the Flyers. Sorry, I'm just kidding. That actually the last knee injury was the one that got the Flyers back in that playoff series, and this one potentially gets the Flyers in the playoffs. But yeah, this is that stings. Like Krejci's such a great player. I hate to see him hurt.
Brizgalov did clear away
the last couple of years. I don't think he's put up the points that he was putting up 3 or 4 years ago. But.
Yeah, no. I'm sure I'll see Brizgalov at the local Home Depot where I run into him quite often, actually.
And guys, from Aaron Ward to TSN, amid Jordan Staal trade rumors, he's told he has been reassured today by the team, and that today as in yesterday, that the speculation is unfounded. Hurricanes GM Ron Francis this morning stated that his team isn't moving Jordan Staal per the News and Observer's Chip Alexander. But we always know when guys say this player's not being traded, this player's not being available, there's a good chance he is.
Not in this case.
Not in the NHL usually.
Yeah, and I think rumors are unfounded. Speculation is just what you're allowed to do. I don't think you can ever say speculation is unfounded. We're all allowed to speculate as much as we want to. But that's my opinion on that. I get kind of. Anything else, Josh? You good?
No, that
All right,
was
cool.
it.
So the trade center lottery simulator is back, and Kevin, you weren't here on Friday, but the Sabres did not win.
Wow.
So your name has been cleared. The winner on Friday was actually the Florida Panthers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there goes the idea. That's why you shouldn't trade away that first round draft pick.
Yeah, you should not trade that pick. So.
I had a text from a really interesting person during this who, after you released that stuff to me, after you talked about that stuff, Kevin, who has a lot to talk about. So that'll be kind of interesting. Maybe I'll call you later on that. There's a lot going on in this schedule thing. There's a lot of people who believe there's something happening, and whether or not it's happening or not, it doesn't. According to Dale Talon, according to what you think, at least, or from Dale Talon, I'm just going to stop there. It's probably not happening. But let's just go from here. The Trade Center, we'll run the lottery right now. Today's winner is, I don't think this team's won before. Today's winner is the Calgary Flames.
Ah, all right.
Yes. So we get.
Don't laugh at your sound effects.
We finally get a chance. You got that down, Mike. We finally get a chance to see a generational player come to Canada. We talked about this on the Cranky Huckers show with Eric DeHasha. Kevin and I did about how good it would be for
just what they need after Monahan and Bennett to get McDavid.
Yeah, and gosh, talk about a young offensive firepower team. This would be down the line. Johnny Gaudreau and Connor McDavid, and holy cow!
Wow, that would be unbelievable.
It'd be a fun team to watch.
It would be entertaining, beyond.
They really would be. Well, that's all the time we have for today, guys. We'll talk again soon. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey, and we'll talk to you then. See you again tomorrow. 7 days to go. Stopping the broadcast now.